Incredibly offensive jokes, comedy. Justpace.it/9ju6. archive.org/details/incredibly-offensive-jokes-comedy_202503. Just don't read these, okay? If you do read them, don't fucking complain. What do you call a homosexual in a wheelchair? Rolades. What's the difference between a joke and two dicks? You can't take a joke. What's black and screams? Stevie Wonder answering the iron. How many cops does it take to push a black man down the stairs? None, he fell. What's the best part of sex with a transvestite? Reaching around and pretending it went all the way through. What's the difference between Hitler and Michael Phelps? Phelps can finish a race. I ran into Hitler. I was surprised to see him and asked him what he was up to. He said, "This time I am going to kill 6 million Jews and 2 clowns. 2 clowns? Why are you going to kill 2 clowns? C. Nobody cares about Z Jews." A white woman and a black man are dancing at a club, and after a while things start to get hot and heavy. After some heavy kissing and petting, the woman makes the suggestion that they return to her apartment for the night. When the couple arrives at the woman's apartment, they begin passionately kissing and undressing each other, preparing to have frenzied and unrepentant sex with each other. However, the white woman, curious as she was, asked the black guy as he was taking off his pants, "Before you take them off, is it true what they say about black guys?" With a suave yet sinister look, he looked into her eyes and said, "Baby, of course." He then proceeded to stab her and ran out with her purse. What's the difference between an onion and a hooker? I don't cry when I'm cutting up the hooker. A guy goes to a whorehouse and tells the madam he only wants to spend $5. The madam thinks for a bit, then says, "Betsy." She's down the hall, last door on the left. The guy walks down, sees Betsy, she's not the best looking, but she would do. He puts it in and it's the worst feeling he's ever had on his dick, like sandpaper and teeth. He pulls out and tells her. Something's wrong, can you do something about that? Betsy crinkles her face, then says, "Why of course. But it will run you another $5. She pockets the $5 and goes to the bathroom and is back in no time. The guy puts it back in and now, it's the complete opposite, it's the best feeling he's ever had, and finishes in a flash. Panting, he asks her, "Oh my God, that felt amazing, what did you do?" Betsy smiles, and says, "For the extra $5, I picked the scabs." What did the leper say to the prostitute? Keep the tip. How many potatoes does it take to kill an Irishman? None. What does a Jew with an erection get when he walks into a wall? A broken nose. What's a Jew's biggest dilemma? Free ham. What do Jewish pedophiles say? Hey kid, want to buy some candy? What's the worst thing about getting your keys locked in your car outside an abortion clinic? Having to go in to ask for a coat hanger. 3 pregnant women are sitting in a doctor's waiting room knitting. Mom 1 checks her watch and takes a pill, vitamin C, good for mom, good for baby. Mom 2 takes a pill and says, vitamin A, good for mom, good for baby. Mom 3 takes a pill and says, thalidomide. I can't knit sleeves. I would tell a Casey Anthony joke, but my mom would kill me. What's the difference between a Catholic priest and acne? Acne doesn't come on a boy's face until he's 13. So I was balls deep in this guy, thrusting as hard as I could when I reached around to give him a hand job. Guess what? That fucker had an erection. What? Queer. The worst part about being a pedophile is trying to fit in. A man walks past girl with no arms or legs sitting by a pool. The girl says to the man, "Excuse me sir, I've never been fucked and in my condition no one would want to fuck me. Will you please fuck me?" So the man kicks her into the pool and says, "There, you're fucked." A guy called into work and says, "Hey, boss. What's the difference between work and your daughter?" "I'm not coming into work this morning." God gave women yeast infection so that they would know what it was like living with an irritating cunt for once. What's worse than sucking a dozen raw oysters out of your grandmother's pussy? Sucking out 13 of them and realizing you only put in a dozen. What does a baby look like after a minute in the microwave? I don't know, I close my eyes when I masturbate. A baby seal walked into a club. I was raping a woman the other night and she cried, please, think of my children. Kinky bitch. Pedophiles are fucking immature assholes. Have you heard the joke about the baby with AIDS? It never gets old. What's so good about an Ethiopian blowjob? You just know she'll swallow. I lost my virginity to a retarded girl last night. I wanted my first time to be special. What does it taste like when you go down on an old lady? Depends. Why did the seaman cross the road? I wore the wrong socks today. Little Johnny is staying at his grandmother's house for the weekend with his parents. He walks into their room in the middle of the night and wakes his mother. His mother says, "What is it, Johnny?" Little Johnny says, "Grandma has a shrimpy." His mother looks at him puzzled. "She has a what?" Johnny says, "A shrimpy." His mother has no idea what little Johnny is talking about. His mother says, "Come show me what you're talking about." Little Johnny leads his mother downstairs where his 85-year-old grandmother is lying sprawled out on the sofa in her nightgown. Her gown is wide open and so are her legs. She is sound asleep. Johnny says to his mother, "Look, Mommy, Grandma has a shrimpy." He points to her vagine's mother laughs. No, Johnny, that's not a shrimpy. That's her vagina." Little Johnny looks up at his mother and says, "Wow. Sure does taste like shrimpy. What's the difference between jam and jelly? I don't jelly my cock down a bitch's throat. What is the difference between a gay guy and a fridge? The fridge doesn't fart when you pull meat out. How do you get a fat girl into bed? Piece of cake. How are children like cell phones? If you've lost one and haven't found it in a couple days, chances are it's probably dead. What's the difference between Sarah Palin's mouth and her vagina? Retarded things only come out of her vagina some of the time. What's the best part about raping a baby? It makes your dick look huge. What's the best part about raping a 4-year-old boy? Watching him cry on the witness stand. How long does it take to cook a baby in a microwave? I don't know. I can't tell time with an erection. What's the difference between a priest and acne? Acne waits until puberty to come on a kid's face. What do you get if you cross an elephant with a poodle? A dead poodle with an 18-inch wide asshole. Why does it take longer for a woman to orgasm than a man? Who cares? What's the difference between a black guy and a pizza? A pizza can feed a family of 4. What do you call 4 Klansmen pushing a pickup truck? White power. What do you call a black guy who flies a plane? A pilot, you racist asshole. What's the difference between a rock and a dead baby? You can't fuck a rock. What do you say to a woman with 2 black eyes? Nothing, you already told her twice. Why do black men cry during sex? Mace. What's the difference between a black guy and Batman? A black guy can't go out at night without Robin. What's white and 14 inches long? Nothing. How many white guys does it take to screw in a light bulb? The number doesn't matter because the white man will screw anything. What does a white woman make for dinner? Reservations. What do you call a white guy surrounded by 5 black guys? Coach. What do you call a white guy surrounded by 11 black guys? Football coach. What do you call a white guy surrounded by hundreds of black guys? Warden. What do you call a white woman with a yeast infection? Cracker with cheese. What does a tampon and a white woman have in common? They're both stuck-up cunts. What kind of file do you need to turn a 15mm hole into a 40mm hole? A pedophile. What's a pedophile's favorite part of a hockey game? Before the first period. How do you swat 200 flies at one time? Hit an Ethiopian in the face with a frying pan. What is a redneck virgin? A 7-year-old that can run faster than her brothers. Why did Helen Keller's dog kill itself? You would too if you were named Oraragag. What is the most positive thing in Harlem? HIV. Why do Jewish girls like to fuck doggy style? They can't stand to see somebody else have a good time. What's the difference between a blonde and a mosquito? One stops sucking when you slap it. What's the difference between a British man and his girlfriend? His girlfriend has a higher sperm count. Why is there so little Puerto Rican literature? Because spray paint wasn't invented until 1949. How do you know if a Chinese person robs your house? Your homework is done, your computer is upgraded, but 2 hours later, the fucker is still trying to back out of your driveway. What's the first thing a redneck says after losing her virginity? Get off of me, Dad, you're crushing my cigarettes. What do rednecks and KFC have in common? They do chicken right. In Kentucky, what do divorces and tornadoes have in common? Either way, someone is going to lose a trailer. Why do the Scottish wear kilts? Because a sheep can hear a zipper from like a mile away. What does a Cuban do when he gets a flat tire? Drowns. 2. Insert favorite ethnic group here, jump off the top of a very tall building. Which one hits the ground first? Who gives a fuck? What's so good about an Ethiopian blowjob? You know she'll swallow. Why did the redneck cross the road? Because he couldn't get his dick out of the chicken. What do you call an Ethiopian with a yeast infection? Quarter pounder with cheese. How do you kill 100 Mexicans? Blow up their van. What do you call 5 Mexicans on the bottom of a pool? Cinco Watts black and blue and hates sex. A rape victim. What's the difference between a blonde and a washing machine? They both drip when they're fucked. What did the little black boy say when he got diarrhea? I'm melting. What do you call a fat Chinese person? A chunk. What did the little Mexican boy get for Christmas? My bike. How are fat bitches and mopeds the same? They are both fun to ride, but you don't tell your friends about them. How many housewives does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. What the fuck they doing out of the kitchen? How do you blindfold a Chinese person? Dental floss. What's the difference between a Jew and a pizza? A pizza doesn't scream when you put it in the oven. Why do black people play basketball? They can run, shoot, and steal. What did Adolf Hitler get his niece for her birthday? An easy bake oven. What's the difference between St. Patrick's Day and Martin Luther King Day? On St. Patrick's Day, everyone wants to be Irish. What do you call an Ethiopian on a hunger strike? Ethiopian. Why don't Puerto Ricans have checkbooks? Because it's impossible to sign your name that small with spray paint. How do you know when a redneck has her period? She's only wearing one sock. What do you call an Ethiopian with buck teeth? A rake. How do you stop 5 black guys from raping a white girl? Throw them a basketball. What do you call a hooker with a runny nose? Full. What's the difference between a pakey and a bucket of shit? The bucket. What do you call 2 Ethiopians in a sleeping bag? Twix. How do you get 100 Ethiopians into a phone box? Throw a tin of beans in. How do you get them out? Run past with a tin opener. What do you do after you rape a 12-year-old deaf, dumb, and blind girl? Break her fingers so she can't tell her mom. Why doesn't Mexico enter the Olympics? Because all their best runners, jumpers, and swimmers are in America. How did the Grand Canyon get there? 2 Jews dropped a quarter down a gopher hole. How do you kill a redneck? Wait till he fucks his sister, then cut the brakes on his house. How do you kill 100 Ethiopians? Throw a biscuit off a cliff. What do you do when you see someone having a seizure in a bathtub? Throw in a load of dirty laundry. What is the difference between Michael Jackson and a grocery bag? One is made of plastic and is dangerous for children to play with. The other is used to carry groceries. How do you really piss off your girlfriend while having sex? Call her on the phone. What did the pedophile say when he was released from prison? I feel like a kid again. What do you get when cross an Italian with a gorilla? A retarded gorilla. Why could Jesus walk on water? Shit floats. What do you get when you cross a black man and a Mexican? A person who's too lazy to steal. What was good about the Million Man March? Only 3 people missed work. What do you do when your woman's watch breaks? Nothing, there's a clock on the stove. Why aren't there any Puerto Ricans on Star Trek? They won't work in the future either. What do gay guys call an upside-down chair? A table for 4. What's the useless skin around a vagina called? The woman. Why are KFC and a woman the same? When you're done eating them, all you have left is a greasy box to put your bone in. How do you keep an Indian out of your backyard? Move the trash cans to the front. Why did God give women 3 more brain cells than cows? So they don't shit on the floor while doing the dishes. Why is Tylenol white? It works. Why do Jews have big noses? Because air is free. What's a homeless woman use for a vibrator? 2 flies in a bottle. Why was Helen Keller such a bad driver? She was a woman. Do you want to hear a joke? Women's rights. What's the new definition for mass confusion? Father's Day in Harlem. Why shouldn't women have driver's licenses? There's no roads between the kitchen and the bedroom. What do you call a Mexican with a sunburn? A refried bean. What do you call a white orgy? A snowball. What do you call a black orgy? Mud wrestling. What do you call a Mexican orgy? Family reunion. What's the difference between a Jew and a canoe? A canoe tips. What do 3 million abused women do wrong every year? They don't fucking listen. What's the worst thing about eating vegetables? Putting them back in the wheelchair when you're done. How do you circumcise a redneck? Kick his sister in the chin. What do you call a bunch of white guys running down a hill? An avalanche. What do you call a bunch of black guys running down a hill? A mudslide. What do you call a bunch of Mexicans running down a hill? A jailbreak. I'm not racist, I have a color TV. Why does Helen Keller masturbate with one hand? So she can moan with the other. Did you hear about the Chinese couple that had a retarded baby? Yeah, they named it Something Wong. Have you heard about the new car designed by the Jews? It stops on a dime and then picks it up. What do you call 4 Mexicans in quicksand? Cuatro cinco. How many Irish does it take to screw in a light bulb? 2. One to hold it in place and the other to drink until the room spins. Did you hear about the 2-car pileup in Mexico? 200 Mexicans died. How many women does it take to screw in a light bulb? None, they just sit in the dark and bitch. What is the difference between a Russian and a bag of shit? Nothing. What's the difference between a pregnant woman and a light bulb? You can unscrew a light bulb. What's the best thing about fucking homeless girls? When you're done, you can drop them off anywhere. What do fags call their balls? Mud flaps. What happens when you stick your hand in a bowl full of black jelly beans? You get your watch stolen. What's long and hard on a black man? The first grade. Why did Raggedy Ann get kicked out of the toy box? She sat on Pinocchio's face and said, "Lie to me." What do you get when you cross Raggedy Ann with the Pillsbury Doughboy? A red-headed bitch with a yeast infection. How do you get a nun pregnant? Dress her up like an altar boy. Why can't Stevie Wonder read? Because he's black. What do you do when your dishwasher doesn't work? Slap her. Why did the feminist cross the road? To suck my cock. What do you call a gay guy in a sleeping bag? A fruit roll-up. If a black guy, a Mexican, and a redneck are all in a car together, who's driving? The police. What's better than taking home the gold in the Special Olympics? Not being retarded. What do priests and Santa Claus have in common? They both leave little boys' rooms with empty sacks. Studies show that 9 out of 10 people enjoy gang rape. Why does Jesus hate M&Ms? They keep falling through his hands. What's the difference between Michael Jackson and a Disney movie? Disney movies can still touch little kids. Oxymorons, loving God, airplane good, government intelligence, religious tolerance, and black people. What do you call a barn full of elderly black people? Antique farm equipment. How do you get a one-armed Scotsman out of a tree? Wave. Why don't Afghan schools teach driver's ed and sex ed the same day? The camel would get too tired. How is locking your keys in your car like getting your girlfriend pregnant? The problem is easily solved with a coat hanger. What do you call a black woman who has had a dozen abortions? A crime fighter. A man enters a pharmacy and asks for birth control pills for his wife and his 7-year-old daughter. The pharmacist is a little shocked and says, "Your 7-year-old daughter is sexually active." No, replies the man. She just sort of lays there. Did you hear about the guy who was into sadism, necrophilia, and bestiality? He gave it up because he was flogging a dead horse. An Indian man dies and arrives at the pearly gates. Yes, how can I help? Asks St. Peter. I'm here to meet Jesus, says the Indian man. St. Peter looks over his shoulder and shouts, Jesus, your cab is here. Why is a truckload of babies different from a truckload of babies? You can't unload a truckload of bowling balls with a pitchfork. What's red, slimy, and crawls up a woman's leg? A homesick abortion. What do I get when I stab a baby with a knife? An erection. What do you call a redneck with 2 sheep? A pimp. How many times does a redneck laugh at a joke? 3 times, once when it's told, once when it's explained, and once when he finally gets it. Why are murders easy to commit in West Virginia? Because everyone there has the same DNA. Why would you wrap a hamster in duct tape? So it won't explode when you fuck it. Did you hear about the new birth control they've introduced to West Virginia? They've banned family reunions. My girlfriend told me I was a pedophile. That's an awfully big word for a 9-year-old. What's the definition of a woman? Life support system for pussy. What's the worst way to spend Easter? Getting crucified. How do they separate men from boys in San Francisco? With a crowbar. What do you call a redneck who does well on an IQ test? A cheater. How do you get a racist to laugh on a Sunday? Tell them a joke on Friday. What's the difference between a racist and a bucket of shit? The bucket. Why is a racist like a drunk? Because whatever they say ends in a slur. Why is a racist like a dog? Because they both mark out territory by spraying walls. What's red and white and peels itself? A white supremacist trying to get a suntan. What's the definition of confused? A white supremacist watching the men's 100-meter sprint. What do you get when you cross a white supremacist with a donkey? Someone who thinks the sun shines out of their own ass. Why is a white supremacist like the announcer at track meet? Because they both start shouting the instant they see a new race. What's the difference between a schoolyard racist and Adolf Hitler? Opportunity. What are the best 4 years of a redneck's life? 6th grade. Why do white supremacists hang around in gangs? So they can form a dope ring. Why didn't the white supremacist cross the road? She was afraid of the other side. How many white supremacists does it take to change a light bulb? None. Racists hate being enlightened. Have you heard about the white supremacist who choked on his yogurt? Someone told him it grew out of a foreign culture. Why do white supremacists compete with others on the basis of color? Because if they competed on brains, they'd lose. Why did the white supremacists punch out the immigrants? Because if you can't join M, beat M. How many men does it take to change a light bulb? None. Let the bitch do the ironing in the dark. How many women does it take to change a light bulb? 11. 10 to form a committee and 1 to get her boyfriend to do it. How many divorced men does it take to screw in a light bulb? Who knows, they never get the house. How many divorced women does it take to screw in a light bulb? 4. 1 to screw in the bulb, 3 to form a support group. What is the difference between a battery and a woman? A battery has a positive side. What does a beer bottle and a guy have in common? They're both empty from the neck up. What's the best thing about a blow job? 10 minutes silence. Why do men have a hole in their penis? So they can get air to their brain. What's a man's idea of safe sex? A padded headboard. What's the smartest thing to come out of a woman's mouth? Einstein's cock. How do you turn a fox into an elephant? Marry it. Why does the bride always wear white? Because it is good for the dishwasher to match the stove and refrigerator. Why do hunters make the best lovers? Because they go deep in the bush, shoot more than once and they eat what they shoot. How can you tell which is the head nurse? The one with the dirty knees. What is the difference between a battery and a woman? A battery has a positive side. Did you hear about the new paint called blonde paint? It's not very bright, but it spreads easy. What is the difference between a drug dealer and a hooker? A hooker can wash her crack and sell it again. Do you know why they call it the Wonder Bra? When you take it off, you wonder where her tits went. Why do men pay more than women for car insurance? Because women don't get blowjobs while they're driving. How do you piss off a female archaeologist? Give her a used tampon and ask her what period it comes from. How many men does it take to open a beer? None. It should be opened by the time she brings it to you. How do you know when a woman's about to say something smart? When she starts her sentence with, "A man once told me." What do you call a white man who can dance? Gay. The best kind of sex is make-up sex. It also assures that son doesn't pick fights with me anymore. A devout man calls his mom and says, "Mom, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is, I've been elected pope." The mother screams in delight for a few minutes and then says, "What's the bad news?" The man says, "The bad news is, I have to move to an Italian neighborhood." What's the difference between snot and cauliflower? Kids will eat snot. When I was young, I used to struggle keeping my colors inside the lines. At my new job at Immigration Control, however, they do as they're fucking told. I gave my blind grandmother a guide dog named Sit. Now it won't take her anywhere. What do you call 50 Puerto Ricans in a room with 50 lesbians? 100 people who won't do dick. What does a barn and an altar boy have in common? They've both probably had a cock inside them. A guy tells his wife that he's going fishing. His wife starts to complain because she says he never takes her anywhere, so he tells her, "Fine, you can come fishing with me and the dog tomorrow." The next morning, the husband wakes up and wakes his wife. Now she's seen that her manipulation has worked a little too well and says, "I don't want to go fishing." The husband is upset. "You bitched and whined about wanting to go somewhere with me and now you don't want to go. Fine, you don't have to go, but you're either going to suck my dick or you're going to let me fuck you in the ass." The wife says, "Let me think about it for a minute." The husband agrees and he leaves her to get things ready for his trip. She comes back, she says, "I don't want to go fishing and I'm not about to let you fuck me in the ass, so I guess I'll just suck your dick." He whips it out and she starts sucking, but then stops. Jesus Christ. Your dick tastes like shit. The husband says, "Yeah, the dog didn't want to go fishing either." Why did the kindergartner drop his book? Assault rifle rounds do make you drop things. Africans have the best drinking games. Like, the last one to find the water dies. How many Mexicans does it take to build a fence? I don't know. I only own blacks. I've got a new nickname for you, I told my wife today. What is it? She asked. Bambi, I replied. Ah, is that 'cause I've got beautiful eyes? She asked. No, it's because I've just killed your mom, I replied. What's the difference between a hamburger and a dead baby? I don't fuck the hamburger before I eat it. What's the difference between a baby and a washing machine? A washing machine doesn't cry when you drop a load in it. Gay jokes are never funny. Come on guys.